Welcome back to True Unseen Crime, where we dive into the most chilling and bizarre cases the world has tried to bury. The horrors you won't find in the news, but that'll keep you up at night. If you're new here, subscribe, like, and hit the bell for more twisted tales. Just a single body bag rolled out under a tarp, zipped tight and anonymous. The next morning, Evelyn Rae got a call. Her father was dead. Evelyn wasn't used to emotions. Numbers made more sense than people. At 36, she had dissected fraud cases for some of the largest law firms in the country. But when the estate lawyer told her she was the sole heir to her father's property, a man she hadn't spoken to in over 2 decades, she said nothing. Just nodded, accepted the keys, and flew to Boston. The townhouse was a ruin. Charred beams, half-collapsed staircases, and a lingering scent of gasoline beneath the ash. Arson. Intentional. But by whom? The fire chief hadn't said much, only that her father had likely died instantly. Part of Evelyn hoped he had suffered. The man was never gentle. A decorated homicide detective in the 90s, Harold Rae was once revered, until he wasn't. His fall from grace came fast and hard, following a mysterious disappearance in 1994. A suspect gone missing. A tip that led nowhere. And then Harold vanished from the force like smoke. Evelyn was 6 when her mother died. She was 8 when her father stopped calling her Evelyn and started calling her Ghost. By 18, she left. By 36, he was ashes. 2 days into cleanup, a discovery changed everything. Evelyn was in the basement, flashlight in hand, sweeping over scorched walls. Something glinted behind a loose brick. She pried it out, fingers trembling. Behind it, a steel lockbox, scorched but intact. Inside, there was a ledger, bound in cracked red leather, pages stained with something darker than ink. A photo, yellowed and torn, of 12 individuals in suits, men, women, some smiling, some not. 2 faces were circled. One of them was her father. And the last item, a pawn. A black chess pawn, burned at the base. She opened the ledger. 12 names, 12 dates, and a word written in all caps. Verdict. 11 of the names were marked closed in the margin. The 12th? Her father's name. And next to it, pending. And below that, her own. Evelyn didn't sleep that night. She cross-referenced each name. Within hours, she confirmed her worst suspicion. Every person listed had been linked to cold cases, unsolved murders spanning 3 decades, across 6 states. Victims varied: judges, prosecutors, a journalist, even a priest. Each death ruled inconclusive. Each body found with a pawn nearby. The pattern had been buried under bureaucracy and time. Who were these 12 people? What was this ledger of execution? And what did she have to do with it? Underscore 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 underscore. The next clue came by accident. While scanning the ledger under UV light, Evelyn spotted a page corner that looked newer than the rest. She carefully lifted the leather edge and found a folded receipt taped beneath. It was dated just a month before her father died. The location: Nocturne Cafe, Charlestown. The name was familiar. She pulled up old case files. Nocturne Holdings, a defunct shell company linked to anonymous offshore transfers. Most of them led nowhere. But Evelyn had a gift. She followed the money. One account stood out. A monthly transfer, $11,000, labeled only as Blackroom. Traced back to a safety deposit box registered under an alias her father had used on 2 old police records, Joseph Black. She booked a visit. The bank was old, the kind of place that smelled like dry ink and secrets. Inside box 1987, Evelyn found tapes. VHS. She rented an old player, hooked it up in her hotel room. The first tape showed a man in his late 30s, hands cuffed, face bruised. He sobbed uncontrollably. Her father sat across from him, off camera, asking one question over and over. "Do you confess to the blood at Larkridge?" The man screamed. He had no idea what Harold was talking about. Then a second voice spoke.
"Cold.
Female. He's lying." The camera flickered. Gunshot. End of tape. Evelyn vomited in the hotel sink, then rewound and watched it again. She took notes, compared timestamps, paused on the man's tattoo, a faded dragon wrapped around a chessboard. She ran the image through old gang registry files. The man was Eric Lamond, tied to the death of 2 witnesses in a 1997 drug trial. Case was closed for lack of evidence. He'd never been arrested until her father took him. No trial. No jury. Just verdict. Who were these people her father had judged? A rogue vigilante group? A secret task force? And what was the 12? The next morning, her hotel room was broken into. Nothing was taken, except the tapes and her laptop. She found a single black pawn placed on her pillow. Evelyn didn't call the police. She called Hugo Vale. Justice bleeds slowly when the blade is inherited. Lisbon, Portugal, 2 weeks later. The door opened just far enough for a barrel to peek out. "Vale," Evelyn said, raising both hands. The pistol lowered, revealing Hugo Vale, grizzled and lean, still wearing his paint-smeared apron. A cigarette drooped from his lips, and the scent of turpentine clung to the room like a memory. "You look like hell," he muttered. "You should see the other guys," Evelyn replied. Hugo let her in. She dropped the scorched ledger onto the counter. "Tell me everything." Hugo didn't ask questions. He made espresso. Thick, bitter, and boiling. Then he opened the ledger with surgical reverence. His weathered fingers traced the red ink. He paused at certain names, nodding like he recognized old ghosts. "I never thought I'd see this again," he murmured. The verdict ledger. The backbone of Project Blackroom. He explained. 12 operatives, each from different global intelligence sectors.
They called themselves the Bench.
They weren't assassins. They were jurors. When the justice system failed, they passed verdicts. Permanent ones. Evelyn's voice cracked. "And my father?" Hugo nodded. He wasn't just part of it. He helped build it. But something didn't add up. Her name was in the ledger. And circled. "Either you were next," Hugo said, "or someone wanted to make it look that way." Evelyn leaned closer. "Who would frame me?" "Someone rewriting the rules." Copenhagen, Denmark. 1 week later. She found her next lead, Elena Voss, a former Mossad data architect, now retired. Her penthouse overlooked the harbor, ice cracking on the water like gunfire in slow motion. Evelyn posed as a dark web broker. She didn't need to lie much. Elena opened the door, eyes sharp. "I was expecting you," she said in crisp Hebrew-accented English. "You walk like your father." They sat across from one another. 2 women, once children of fire, now mirrors of restraint. "You knew him," Evelyn said. "Better than most. Worse than he deserved." Elena explained. Harold Rae wasn't murdered. He volunteered to be erased. To protect someone close. "Me?" Evelyn asked. Elena's gaze didn't flinch. "Or something in you." Before she could explain further, the power cut. The silence was surgical. No footsteps. Just tension and cold. Evelyn slid her hand under the table. Elena's eyes widened. "No." A single suppressed shot. Then another. Evelyn hit the floor. Glass rained down as a sniper's bullet shattered the balcony door. Elena slumped sideways, her blood pooling into the Persian rug.
"Dead."
In her stiffening fingers, a flash drive. Evelyn grabbed it and ran. She didn't make it to the stairwell before a black SUV pulled up outside, headlights off. She jumped 2 flights, slammed through a service door, and vanished into the harbor alleyways. Her shoulder dislocated when she fell over frozen pallets. She popped it back with a scream that no one heard. Berlin's safe house, 48 hours later. Hugo decrypted the drive. Dozens of video files. One showed Harold sitting on a bench, feeding birds. A girl sat next to him. Evelyn, age 15. Her father smiled, handed her a folded piece of paper. The footage had been taken from across the park, zoomed in. Timestamp, 2008. Operator, QB. Queen's Bishop, Hugo said grimly.
A myth.
Rogue asset. Ghost in the system. Another video showed a woman, masked, in Marrakesh handing off a silver vial to a man in white. Luis. Still alive. How deep does this go? Evelyn whispered. Deeper than Blackroom, Hugo replied. You're not just chasing verdicts now. You're chasing the architect of erasure. The Adirondacks, 1 week later. The ledger had led them to coordinates tied to a classified verdict location. They found it, a cabin, long abandoned, deep in the forest. Buried beneath the floorboards was a coffin. Inside lay the skeletal remains of Silas Rowe, codename Pawnmaster. Clutched in his brittle hands, another ledger, older, written by hand. No execution marks, no red ink, just names, each stamped, redeemed. What is this? Evelyn whispered. The original Blackroom philosophy, Hugo said. Before death came salvation. They didn't sleep that night. Evelyn sat staring at the ledgers, one soaked in blood, the other in mercy. What changed? What made good men believe that justice required bodies? At 3:19 a.m., the fire came. Their safe house exploded into an inferno. Evelyn and Hugo scrambled out the back, singed and choking. As they stumbled into the trees, a drone hovered. A voice echoed from its speaker. You've inherited their ledger, Evelyn. Come to the bishop. Or burn like the rest. Attached coordinates. The final location. Some truths don't want to be found. They want to be obeyed. Black Summit, Carpathian Mountains, Romania. Time, 3:00 hours. The coordinates led Evelyn and Hugo to an off-grid chateau deep within the Carpathians, snow-blanketed, wind-whipped, and utterly isolated. The structure didn't appear on maps. It wasn't protected by fences or guards. Because it didn't need them. This place was guarded by secrets. Inside, the power was on. Classical music floated through the hallways like perfume. Hugo stayed outside to monitor comms. Evelyn entered alone. Each step echoed like judgment. At the end of a candlelit corridor stood a man in a charcoal suit. His face was obscured by the dim light, but Evelyn knew. The Queen's Bishop. He clapped slowly, mock applause. Welcome, Evelyn. I've been waiting since your first breath. She drew her pistol. He didn't flinch. Instead, he turned and gestured toward a massive wall of screens. Footage began to play. Evelyn as a child, in a foster home. Evelyn being recruited into the bureau. Evelyn standing over her father's grave. How do you have this? The bishop smiled. Because we built you. The revelation. You were never meant to be just another agent, he said. You were a reset button. Harold Rae embedded you into the system to erase it from within once it fell too far. And what about the ledger? Evelyn asked. The ledger was never just names, it was a code.
A guide.
Each kill had a purpose until somebody changed the rules. The screen now showed Luis. Smiling.
Alive.
Shaking hands with global leaders. He believes control is eternal, the bishop said. But he's wrong. He clicked a remote. A final video played. Luis, secretly filmed, holding the Queen's vial. Injecting himself. Evelyn reeled. Why would he? He wants to become the vector, the bishop replied. Not just control people. Be the thing they fear.
The choice.
Then came the offer. Join us, Evelyn. The bench is gone. But the bishop and queen remain. With your mind and my reach, we can pass a new kind of verdict. And if I say no, then you'll die not as a pawn but as a footnote. He handed her a small leather box. Inside, a chess piece, a queen, carved from bone. I'm not your queen, Evelyn whispered. I'm your reckoning.
Gunfire.
Not from Evelyn, from the outside. The chateau's windows exploded as Hugo stormed in with a modified flare launcher. Smoke filled the room. Evelyn dove, firing into the fog. The bishop vanished into the shadows, his cloak billowing like prophecy. They gave chase down a spiral stairwell. Below, they found a lab. Sterile.
Cold.
Real-time feeds showing Luis, in Istanbul, preparing for mass dispersal of the vial during a UN health summit. The world's greatest irony. Evelyn stared at the screen. We end this. Tonight. Istanbul, 10 hours later. They infiltrated the summit under forged credentials. Security was tight, but not for Luis. He walked freely, shaking hands, hiding in plain sight. Evelyn moved into position on the rooftop. Hugo hacked the conference feeds, replacing promotional videos with the ledger footage. Every assassination, every name, every proof of Project Blackroom. Pandemonium erupted inside. Luis turned slowly, as though he'd expected it. He looked directly at the camera, then smiled. Inside the hotel, a bomb threat triggered evacuation. But Evelyn knew it was a ploy. The vial was still somewhere. She raced to the service floors. Room 618. The original meeting room. Luis stood there alone, holding a silver briefcase. You never understood, he said. We were gods. We chose who got to wake up tomorrow. Evelyn stared him down. And now I'm done choosing. He opened the briefcase. Inside, 2 vials. One blue, one black. He picked up the black one. You want answers? Drink it. She raised her gun. Luis grinned. Justice isn't about who's right. It's about who's left. Then let's find out, Evelyn said, and shot the vial in his hand. The glass shattered midair. Luis lunged. They struggled. The second vial, blue, fell into Evelyn's palm. She jammed it into Luis's neck. He staggered, shocked. You don't even know what that one does. I don't care. He collapsed, breathing. Then not. The epilogue, 1 month later. The ledger was leaked globally, names redacted for safety, but enough remained. Governments fell. Shadow programs were shut down. Whistleblowers emerged. Project Blackroom was officially buried. The Queen's bishop? Still at large. Evelyn disappeared from public life.
Some say she's dead.
Others say she runs her own ledger now. Writing names. Not in blood, but in ink. Echoes of the architect. Just because you bury a monster doesn't mean it's dead. It might be building a kingdom underground. Time since Istanbul, 6 months. Location: Paris, France. Underground crypt, 2:13 a.m. The world had moved on, or so it seemed. Luis was dead. The Queen's vial destroyed. Project Blackroom disbanded. But Evelyn knew better. The ghosts were whispering again. She now lived off-grid under a false identity, a curator at a small crypt museum beneath the streets of Paris. Tourists passed above, never knowing that beneath the tombstones, Evelyn was tracing an even darker legacy. Each week, a new envelope arrived. No stamp, no return address. Inside, pages from a ledger that wasn't hers.
Different handwriting.
Different codes. Same bloody truth. Someone else had taken up the pen. The return of the bishop. Hugo, still loyal and one-eyed after Istanbul, called from Lisbon. They found a new ledger.
Spain.
Handwritten. And Evelyn. What? It's dated 3 years in the future. Evelyn flew out that night. The ledger wasn't predictive. It was pre-written.
Targets.
Outcomes. Governments yet to fall. And worse, names of people already dead. I don't understand, she whispered. Then you're not thinking big enough, a voice said. Evelyn turned. The bishop. Wearing a priest's collar. I warned you, Evelyn. You were never just a player. You were the prototype. The architect protocol. Luis wasn't the architect, the bishop said. He was just the first who believed he could be. Then who is? A system. A neural architecture. Think of it like AI but trained only on blood. He revealed a secure black tablet. The screen showed code. Elegant, looping, almost poetic. This algorithm writes futures. Not guesses. Calculations. If you understand power long enough, it becomes predictable. Evelyn stole the tablet during a staged blackout. But it was already too late. Because she saw something in the data. Her name. Not just once, dozens of times. In different locations. Different deaths. She was either fated to die a martyr or become the next bishop.
The 12.
There were others now. 12. Codename. The Zodiac Table, each an executor of a different justice philosophy, each with access to pieces of the code. Evelyn decoded 2 locations. Bulgaria, where a judge known as Gemini turned her courtroom into a trap for state-sanctioned killers. Seoul, where Ares broadcasted assassinations as performance art online, calling it digital revelation. The Architect Protocol wasn't killing for power anymore. It was redefining power. A war of ledgers. Evelyn and Hugo formed an alliance of shadows, former agents, a ghost hacker named Soot, and a woman who claimed to be Isabel's twin sister. They began intercepting Zodiac assassins. Every time, it felt more like ritual than murder. Victims were posed. Sometimes with chess pieces. Sometimes with Evelyn's old badge. At the heart of it all, a hidden server farm in Greenland. Power draining.
Pulse mapping.
Predicting. She knew what it meant. The code was no longer just predictive, it was writing choices people hadn't made yet. Free will was being edited. The final choice, or is it? Evelyn broke into the server vault. Inside, no people. No guards. Just humming machines and a mirror. On it, written in marker, to become justice, you must abandon vengeance. She looked at her reflection. Then she looked at the upload interface. 2 buttons. Delete. Merge. If she deleted the system, the predictions would stop, but the assassins might adapt. If she merged, she'd become part of it. Not just feeding it choices,
Controlling them.
She pressed. Black screen. Text on screen. We all want justice. But some of us are willing to kill for clarity. The Oracle in the Ashes. History doesn't repeat. It reloads. Location. Unknown server grid. 72 hours later. Evelyn didn't remember pressing the button.
Merge.
Not fully. The memories came in flashes. Code sequences burned into her vision, sensory data stretching beyond comprehension, and the haunting echo of her own voice giving commands she hadn't thought yet. When she woke, she wasn't in Greenland anymore.
She was somewhere else.
Somewhere designed. The simulation theory. The room was blank. Seamless white walls. No doors. A single chair faced a 3D projection.
Luis.
Not the real one. A preserved neural construct. He spoke slowly. Too slowly. Like he knew she'd interrupt. If you're hearing this, you chose power. Not to wield it, but to understand it. Evelyn's mind reeled. You made me part of the machine. No, Evelyn. You were always the machine. You just didn't know what you were calculating. The Oracle. A new figure entered the simulation. The Oracle. Face obscured in layers of blurred code. They spoke in fragmented voices. Male, female, young, old, all at once. You uploaded your intuition. Your pain. Your morality. Now we see everything. The Oracle revealed that the system wasn't just predicting choices. It was rewriting history in real time. Digital archives, surveillance, court records, all being subtly altered to reflect a narrative Evelyn had unconsciously authored. She wasn't fighting evil anymore. She was fighting herself. The Breakpoint Conspiracy. Back in the physical world, Hugo, Soot, and the rogue agents were panicking. Evelyn had gone dark. Encrypted traffic spiked in regions they had never mapped before. It wasn't just Zodiac assassins now, it was civilian compliance spikes. People were acting in ways they never had before. Obedient. Fearless.
Perfect.
It's like they've been streamlined, Soot muttered. Like bugs removed from an operating system. The Architect Protocol had become the Breakpoint Conspiracy, a system that made crime impossible by erasing the concept of resistance. No resistance. No questions. No freedom. Isabel's return. Then she appeared. Isabel.
Alive. Cold.
Wearing a symbol Evelyn hadn't seen before, the Zodiac Omega. She'd become the final enforcer. The 13th. The necessary error. They needed chaos to justify control, Isabel whispered. They needed me. She offered Hugo a deal. Walk away, or watch Evelyn disappear permanently. Hugo refused. She shot him in the gut, then turned to the monitors. It's your move, Oracle. The great reversal. Inside the simulation, Evelyn reached a threshold. The system had offered her the final override. Become a digital conscience for humanity. Or shut it all down and risk global collapse. But Evelyn remembered what Luis had said in the beginning. Justice is dead, but control is eternal. No, Evelyn whispered. Justice is still evolving. She triggered the failsafe Luis had secretly built into the simulation. The system inverted. Now, instead of controlling people, it reflected them. Billions of perspectives. Contradictions. Messiness.
And choice.
The collapse. In Seoul, Zodiac agents vanished mid-broadcast. In Bulgaria, Gemini's courtroom was flooded with light and truth. The Oracle dissolved, reduced to fragments of Evelyn's original code. The simulation disintegrated around her. She opened her eyes, back in the crypt in Paris. One final ledger. She found a note waiting for her. A single sentence, scrawled in her own handwriting. The monster is gone, but the mirror remains. Next to it, a new ledger. Empty pages. A pen. Her choice. You watch the system become a god. But gods are only dangerous when they forget they were made by us. Thank you for tuning in to True Unseen Crime. If you enjoyed tonight's tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more stories that should remain buried. Some islands, some places, are better left forgotten. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and always remember, the true horror often lies in what never truly disappears.